Imagine this. What if I told you Cinderella's slipper wasn't always glass? In France, yes, it sparkles like crystal. But in China, it shines as delicate gold. In Egypt, it's made of red leather. And in some versions, there isn't a slipper at all. And the fairy godmother? Not always the wand-waving lady, you know. Sometimes, she's an enchanted tree. In one story, she's a talking bird. And in another, she's a magical fish that grants wishes. The deeper you look, the more you realize Cinderella isn't just one tale. It's a story that's traveled across continents, across languages, and across time itself, changing shape, yet always carrying the same spark of hope and transformation. Welcome to Tales That Travel. The Cinderella we grew up with feels universal. A kind girl, mistreated by a cruel stepmother, a magical night at the royal ball, and of course, the lost slipper that changes everything. But here's the secret. Cinderella is not just one story. What if I told you this tale exists in over 1,000 versions, each one shaped by the people, the land, and the culture that tells it? Think about that for a moment. In some versions, the slipper is not glass at all. Sometimes it's made of silk, in others, gold, and in a few, it isn't even a slipper, it's jewelry or a ring or something else entirely. And the fairy godmother? Well, she doesn't always appear. In certain cultures, magic comes from ancestors, from nature spirits, or even from the animals who protect Cinderella. So today we take a journey. We begin in the silk villages of China, where Xian's story is said to be the oldest known Cinderella tale. We travel to the forests of Nigeria, where a girl called Chinye must face hardship, guided not by a slipper, but by wisdom and resilience. We pause at the sacred lakes of Native America, where the rough-faced girl transforms suffering into strength. We step onto the golden sands of Egypt, where Rhodopis' slipper sails across the Nile and captures a pharaoh's attention. And finally, we enter the shadowed woods of Europe, where the story we know best was polished into the fairy tale we grew up with. Each place adds its own colors, symbols, and lessons. Each version reminds us that stories, like people, travel, adapt, and survive. So, what does Cinderella look like in your culture? Stay with me, because this is a journey across the world, through the eyes of one of the most beloved stories ever told. Our first story takes us to ancient China, nearly 1,000 years before Disney was ever imagined. Here, in a small village tucked among the misty mountains and silk-weaving towns, lives a girl named Xian. She is kind, patient, and full of quiet strength, yet her life is marked by sorrow. Her stepmother, harsh and unyielding, treats her as little more than a servant. But Xian has one secret source of comfort. Down at the edge of a still pond, she finds a friend, a beautiful carp, shimmering in colors of red and gold. Unlike anyone else in her world, this carp listens to her. It becomes her companion, her confidant, her only bright spot in days filled with endless chores and cruelty. But tragedy has a way of finding the gentle-hearted. Her stepmother, suspicious of Xian's happiness, discovers the fish. And in a single act of cruelty, she kills it. Heartbroken, Xian buries the fish's bones. Yet this is not the end, it is the beginning. For in many Chinese tales, spirits linger in the smallest things. From the bones of the fish comes a whisper, a gift of magic that answers Xian's grief with hope. When the time for the great village festival arrives, a chance for celebration, for music, for meeting others, Xian longs to go, but she knows her stepmother will forbid it. And so, she turns to the fish's spirit for help. What she receives is unlike anything she has ever known. A gown of silk, azure blue, shimmering like the surface of water beneath the moon, and on her feet, slippers of pure gold, so light they float, so strong they outshine jade. For one evening, Xian steps into a new life. At the festival, people marvel at her beauty, but more than that, they feel the warmth of her kindness, the quiet dignity she carries. She is no longer the forgotten stepdaughter. She is radiant, a figure who seems to belong to another world. But as in all Cinderella tales, magic comes with a cost. In her hurried flight from the festival, one slipper is lost. It is picked up not by a prince in shining armor, but by a king. And here lies the heart of Xian's story. For this king does not set out to search for the most beautiful woman. Instead, he seeks the most kind. When Xian is brought before him, not dressed in silk, but in the worn clothes of her daily life, he sees the truth. Not just the shimmer of her slipper, but the gentleness of her spirit. And so, Xian rises from hardship, not because of beauty alone, but because of the strength of her heart. This tale, the story of Xian, is often considered the oldest known Cinderella story in the world. It reminds us that long before the ballrooms, the glass slippers, and the fairy godmothers we know today, there was a girl in China, a golden slipper, and a lesson that still echoes. True worth is measured not by wealth or beauty, but by kindness. Now, to West Africa, where Cinderella's tale beats to the rhythm of talking drums. Here, the story is not about a ball, nor a slipper, nor even a prince. It is about choices, about wisdom, about what the heart carries into the world. This is the story of Chinye. Chinye lives under the shadow of her stepmother, sharp-tongued, cold-hearted, never satisfied. Every day, the girl is sent to fetch water, to gather food, to labor endlessly while her stepsister idles. One evening, as the village settles into silence and the moon begins to rise, her stepmother sets her a cruel task. "Go into the forest," she orders. "Fetch water from the far stream. Do not return until your pot is full." And so Chinye walks into the night. The forest looms, alive with shadows. The air hums with insects and the far-off calls of owls. Each step seems heavier than the last, but she does not falter. Her heart, though tired, is steady. Deeper into the woods she goes, until she sees something strange. A glow faint at first, then brighter, like silver light caught between the trees. There, standing in the moonlit clearing, is an old woman, her skin lined with age, her eyes shining with wisdom. She does not seem ordinary. She seems otherworldly. The old woman speaks, her voice soft as a lullaby, yet commanding as a drumbeat. "Child," she says, "you may take one gourd from this place. Choose carefully." Before Chinye are laid gourds of every size, some small and plain, others great and splendid, carved and gleaming, as if they hold the world within. What would you choose? The largest? The brightest? The one that promises abundance? Chinye pauses. She remembers the teachings of her people, that greed blinds, but humility guides. She kneels and chooses the smallest, simplest gourd of them all. When she returns home and cracks it open, a miracle unfolds. From that little gourd spills gold, jewels, fine cloth, and blessings so abundant that they light the hut with brilliance. Her life, once heavy with toil, is now touched with fortune. But the story does not end here. Her stepsister, spoiled, envious, and urged on by her mother, demands her own treasure. She storms into the forest, her eyes fixed only on gain. When the old woman offers her the same choice, she laughs and snatches the largest gourd. She runs home, eager to claim her riches. But when she splits it open, the house shakes with thunder. Snakes slither out, hissing. Flames crackle. Darkness pours forth like smoke. The blessings of Chinye's wisdom are matched by the curses of her sister's greed. And so, the tale of Chinye teaches us this: true treasure is not found in size or splendor, but in humility, kindness, and wisdom. In West Africa, where the drums carry stories from village to village, the Cinderella we know takes on a different rhythm. Here, she does not wait for rescue. She earns her fortune by choosing wisely, by staying true to herself. And as the drums fade into silence, the lesson remains clear: riches can come from the smallest gourd. If your heart knows how to choose, to the shores of Lake Ontario, among the Algonquin people, there lives a girl the villagers call the rough-faced girl. Her life is not easy. Each day, she tends the fires in her family's lodge. Sparks leap and ash clings to her skin. Her hands are burned, her arms are scarred, her face marked by flame. Where others wear smooth skin and fine adornments, she wears the signs of hardship. Her sisters laugh at her. They mock her, covering themselves in beads, feathers, and shimmering paint. They dream of marrying the one known as the invisible being, a great spirit who dwells by the lake. He is powerful, beautiful, and mysterious. And though he cannot be seen by just anyone, his presence is felt everywhere. In the shimmer of water, in the wind that ripples through the trees, in the rainbow after a storm. Many women of the village long to be his bride. They dress in their finest, boasting that they alone can see him. But the invisible being has a sister, a guardian, who protects him and guards his secrets. To every woman who comes to claim him, she asks a simple question: "If you have truly seen my brother, then tell me, what is his bow made of? What is his sled?" One by one they fail. Their answers are hollow. Their eyes see only themselves, not the spirit who dwells in the world around them. But the rough-faced girl, though she owns nothing, though her clothing is tattered and her skin bears scars, feels a quiet knowing inside her heart. She decides she will go to meet him. Her sisters mock her once again. "Look at you, scarred, ugly, dressed in rags. How could a spirit ever choose you?" But the girl does not listen. She walks to the lakeshore barefoot, her steps steady, her heart filled with faith. When she arrives, the invisible being's sister meets her. "You wish to marry my brother?" she asks gently. "Yes," the girl answers. "Then tell me this. What is his bow made of?" The girl closes her eyes, remembering the arcs of color she has seen stretching across the sky after rain. She whispers, "His bow is made of the rainbow." The sister smiles. "And his sled?" The girl gazes upward, where the night sky unfolds, vast and glittering. She sees the long river of stars flowing across the heavens. "His sled," she says, "is the Milky Way." And with that, the sister knows. This girl sees not with her eyes alone, but with her heart. She has seen the invisible being in the truest way. The spirit appears before her. Where others saw only scars, he sees courage. Where others mocked her burns, he sees the fire of strength. And as he takes her hand, something wondrous happens. Her scars melt away. Her skin shines like moonlight on water. But even more, her inner beauty, her kindness, her vision, her faith, blazes brighter than anything her sisters ever wore. The rough-faced girl, once ridiculed and cast aside, becomes the bride of the invisible being. Not because of outward beauty, not because of wealth or jewels, but because she saw with her heart when others could not. And so the Algonquin people tell her story of courage, of faith, and of seeing beyond appearances. A reminder that true vision does not come from the eyes, but from the spirit within. Now, drift with me to ancient Egypt, a land of golden sands, whispering reeds, and a river that was life itself, the Nile. Here lived Rhodopis. She was not Egyptian by birth, but a Greek slave brought from across the sea. Her skin was pale, her hair shone golden under the sun, and her eyes carried the sorrow of someone far from home. Rhodopis lived among others who mocked her. They laughed at her foreignness, her difference, the way she stood apart. While they adorned themselves in fine linen, coal, and jewelry, she worked quietly, washing clothes in the Nile, tending to chores, and dreaming of something beyond the life she had been given. But even in chains of servitude, her spirit could not be bound. There was one thing she loved more than anything else: dance. When her work was done, she would slip away to the riverbank. There, with the water glistening and papyrus swaying, she would dance barefoot on the sand, her movements light as the ibis birds that skimmed the Nile's surface. Her grace was so striking that even the animals seemed to pause and watch. Some say it was the gods themselves who noticed her. One day, as Rhodopis bathed her feet in the cool waters of the Nile, something extraordinary happened. A great falcon, sacred to Horus, the god of kingship, swept down from the heavens. With powerful wings beating against the desert air, it snatched one of her sandals, a delicate slipper, said to be tinted with rose gold leather. Startled, Rhodopis watched as the falcon carried it high into the sky, across the desert, disappearing into the horizon. She could not have known then that this single act would change her destiny. Far away, in Memphis, the pharaoh sat in judgment, gazing out over his court. Suddenly, the falcon swooped down before him, dropping the sandal at his feet. The hall fell silent. In Egypt, signs from the gods were never ignored. The pharaoh lifted the slipper, examining it closely. It was small, finely made, unlike anything he had seen before. He turned to his priests and nobles. "This is no ordinary thing," he declared. "It is a message. The one whom this sandal belongs to is chosen. She shall be my queen." And so the search began. Messengers carried the sandal through towns and villages, across the fertile banks of the Nile and deep into the sands of the desert. Women of all ranks tried to claim it, slipping their feet inside. but the sandal fit none of them. Finally, the messengers came to the place where Rhodopis lived. Her stepsisters, some say jealous fellow servants, pushed themselves forward eager to try. Yet their feet were too large, too rough, too unworthy of the delicate slipper. Then, quietly, almost as if afraid to hope, Rhodopis stepped forward. She slipped her foot inside the sandal. It fit perfectly. The messengers bowed. The sign of Horus had spoken. When Rhodopis was brought before the pharaoh, he looked not only at her beauty, but at the grace in her movements, the kindness in her eyes, the quiet strength she carried from a life of hardship, and he knew the gods had guided him true. Rhodopis, the foreign slave girl, rose to become queen of Egypt. Her story, preserved through centuries, may be the oldest version of Cinderella ever told. But unlike later tales of fairy godmothers and pumpkins, this one carries the weight of divine will. It is not just chance that lifts her, it is destiny, the favor of the gods, the flight of Horus himself. And so, by the waters of the Nile, under the gaze of sun and sky, the story of Rhodopis reminds us that even the most unlikely soul can be chosen when fate spreads its wings. Finally, we enter the shadowed woods of Germany, where the air is thick with mist, and the stories told by firelight carry a sharper edge than the ones we grew up with. Here, in the pages of the brothers Grimm, Cinderella is not the sparkling, cheerful girl of Disney. She is called Aschenputtel, the girl of the ashes. Her story begins in grief. When her mother dies, the young girl plants a hazel twig upon her grave. She waters it with her tears day after day until it grows into a living tree. And though her stepmother and stepsisters mock her, the tree becomes her secret sanctuary school. Whenever Aschenputtel weeps beneath its branches, white doves descend from the sky. These are not gentle pets. They are messengers tied to the spirit of her mother, to the mysteries of life and death. And when she prays, the birds bring her gowns of gold and silver, as though heaven itself has clothed her. There is no fairy godmother here. No wand, no pumpkin carriage, no smiling mice. Instead, there is a tree on a grave, and a girl whose faith brings magic out of mourning. When the royal ball is proclaimed, Aschenputtel longs to go. Her stepmother scoffs and heaps impossible tasks before her, lentils scattered in ashes, peas spilled across the floor. But the birds come. They swoop down, feathered wings flashing white, and sort the grains for her. And so she is able to slip away, dressed in gowns brighter than moonlight, wearing slippers not of glass aloe, but of pure gold. At the ball, the prince is captivated. He dances only with her, night after night, until she flees back into the shadows. To follow her, he lays a trap, spreading pitch upon the palace steps. And there, in her hurried escape, one golden slipper sticks fast. The prince declares he will marry the woman whose foot fits the shining shoe. But here, the tale turns brutal. The stepsisters, driven by envy and desperation, go to grotesque lengths. The first slices off her toes, forcing her foot into the slipper. The prince almost believes, until the doves call from the branches above, "Rook di ku. Rook di ku." There's blood in the shoe. The shoe is too small. The true bride waits for you. The second stepsister cuts away her heel. Once more, the slipper is forced on. Once more, the prince is deceived. But again, the doves sing out the truth. At last, Aschenputtel tries on the slipper. It fits perfectly. The prince knows she is the one. And so, she is brought to the palace, clothed in radiance, no longer the girl of the ashes. But the story does not close with a wedding alone. The Grimm brothers carry it further into punishment. For at the ceremony when the stepsisters arrive, the white doves swoop down again. And this time, they peck out their eyes. It is cruel. It is unsettling. Yet it is the way the story was told, meant to warn of envy, deceit, and the price of cruelty. Aschenputtel's tale is not one of softened edges. It is raw, shadowed, and fierce. Her triumph is not just love, but justice, delivered by the spirits of the natural world, by the doves that answered her tears. And so, in the dark forests of Germany, the story of Cinderella takes its most haunting form. Not glass slippers, not pumpkin magic, but tears, blood, and a tree rooted in grief. A reminder that even in the ashes, beauty and justice can still rise. Across continents, across centuries, one tale echoes. From the golden sands of Egypt to the misty mountains of China, from the sacred lakes of Native America, to the deep forests of Africa and the shadowed woods of Europe, the story of Cinderella lives on. But notice this. Though the details shift, though her name changes, though her slipper takes on new forms, the heart of the story never fades. Sometimes it is a slipper of gold. Sometimes it is a gourd filled with blessings. Sometimes it is a sandal carried by the wings of a falcon. And sometimes there is no slipper at all, but simply the clear vision of a heart that sees truth. The magic changes. The settings change. Even the struggles she faces take new forms. But what remains constant is this. Cinderella is never defined by her suffering. She is never broken by cruelty or mocked into silence forever. She endures. She chooses kindness when bitterness might have been easier. She holds courage when despair feels closer at hand. And in the end, the world bends to that goodness. It is not the fairy godmother, nor the wealth of a palace, nor even the love of a prince that makes her story endure. It is the simple, powerful reminder that no matter how unfair life may feel, no matter how harshly we may be treated, goodness has a way of rising. That is why this tale has survived for over 1,000 years. Why it has traveled rivers, deserts, oceans, and forests. Why it has been told in whispers around village fires, sung in royal courts, written into scrolls, and painted into books. Because deep down, across cultures, across time, we all need the same reminder. That kindness matters. That courage matters. That hope matters. So whether it is a slipper of glass, of gold, of silk, or no slipper at all, Cinderella's story lives on. Goodness will always rise. Which Cinderella version surprised you most? Was it the magical fish in China, the wise woman in Nigeria, or the falcon in Egypt? Tell us in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you're enjoying this journey through world folklore, make sure to subscribe and comment "I subscribe" down below. We try our best to reply to every single comment. Next time, we journey into the world of Sleeping Beauty. Did you know there's a version where she sleeps for 1,000 years? Until then, keep dreaming, because every culture has a story, and every story has a soul.